The business planning process, chapter 2, is where our discussion begins today. And when we look at the business planning process, we look at it from a perspective of understanding scans or scanning, which is nothing more than a survey, the establishment and development of goals, the ability to then formulate strategy, and then last but not least, putting ourselves in a position to leverage the advantages of the internet. The business planning process, let's look at scans first. Scans really involve taking a look at the social, technological, economic, competitive, and legal aspect of what we're doing. So we need to be able to scan in a way that gathers information for us based upon this criteria as a foundation for the questions, and then use that data to then come back and process how we're going to develop our goals and strategy. When you look at goals, goals have to be clear throughout the whole organization and even for the marketplace. It has to be clear that you're trying to sustain your business for as long as possible or whatever time frame you've determined. And then these goals have to be achievable so we can ensure this success over time. The strategy then is to put the organization or the company in a position to be successful. And so communication of that strategy internally and externally ensures the consistency and the ability to potentially reach that success. And then how we deliver that. You've had so many different modalities by which to deliver your strategy today. You have to consider your audience and you have to consider how effective you want to be. The internet really is a tool that allows us to have a web presence, not just a website, because your presence could be based upon a website, Facebook, Twitter, emails, a number of different ways. But what we want to do is look at this from the standpoint of our web presence. At the front of our web presence is more the e-commerce section. So we look at the categories of business to business, business to consumer, consumer to consumer, and even mobile. That front face potentially puts controls in the hands of the consumer, while the back end, the operational end, the e-business portion of our web presence really on the internet should be based upon how we have security and control points that allow us to collect and secure data so that people on the front end using that service, the consumers, feel secure about the relationship that they build with us as a business. Now, the planning process goes in a number of stages from formulation to evaluation. But what's most important is that we have to ask ourselves questions at each stage. Formulation, how do we pull the plan together successfully? Adaptation, how do we categorize our ideas and apply them in the marketplace? Concentration, how do we apply the goals to our business plan into actionable steps? Implementation, how are we going to fund that plan so we can sustain it over time? And then evaluation, what changes do we need to make in the plan and why? So here's an exercise that it's optional that may be beneficial. And it can be either done in group or team if you've developed either of those. Formulate an idea for a business that you can put into a plan. Adapt the idea to include the five scan areas that have been discussed. And then concentrate on developing goals and a strategy. Put together the steps to implement the plan. You can use whatever format you like. Probably should be 2 to 4 pages, double space a Word document, and of course always put your name on whatever your work may be. This is an optional exercise to help you kind of understand, do I have a grasp of the information and a command of the material early on? So it's a good frame of reference on the topic. Here are some definitions I think might be beneficial. Looking at scan and how it impacts the organization, by the way, to discover potential trends, goals with respect to time and magnitude, these objectives we want to reach, strategy. That's our game plan on obtaining the goals. And then the internet, the tool that we use to give us a face virtually on the front end of our business, e-commerce, and then to give us the controls and security and safety on the back end of our business, e-business. So what did we learn today? We learned that these elements help us to frame the business planning process and why they are important. And make sure you take the time to understand that, because we're going to next go more heavily into the plan itself. And so the plan has a structure as well. Here is your thought for the day. The first step toward getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are.